So, all right. Okay, so.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm going to introduce you and then I will turn it over to you. Is that all right?
Are you on capacity to recording the video, the Zoom lecture? Can you record it?
Yes, we can record it. It is recording.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, I'm going to start. Jean Sable's early passion for decorative painting originates from previous family generations, and it is because of his cultural heritage that he naturally took to and progressed in decorative painting techniques. In 2000, Jean was awarded Best Craftsman in France by the French government. He began the Sable School in Versailles in 2003 and has been appointed as expert at the Versailles Court of Appeal, giving expertise upon matters of disorder, defects, or litigations concerning interior decorative and artistic finishes. Jean is a permanent member of Salon and hosted Salon Versailles in 2010. Jean's topic is painting a story through the style of chinoiserie. It's on to you now.
Thank you, Margaret. Welcome to all of us in École Sable in Versailles. It's a pleasure for me and for my assistant Thierry and Armel, which are very precious helpers and assistants, to welcome you here. So please follow me and come in. I just would like to make a small tour of the school, showing you the spots, the installations, and so please follow us. You can see it's like a small salon here. I set up few panels of previous salon demonstrations, as I did since 1998, so since a long time. So you can see few panels. So let's see this one, which is pretty emblematic of the school, because it was exhibited in Versailles for Salon 2010. And this one was painted. Remember, this one was painted in Tokyo for Salon Yaiko. This was my demonstration there. So please, come in, enter. You're very welcome. So all these paintings represent most of the workshops I used to teach here. We have on average 15 students every year who comes here to learn the whole range of the decorative painting skills. So you have some trompe-l'œil niche. Oh, remember this one I painted for Salon Tatiana in St. Petersburg. So nice. Remember. So please follow me once again. So this is pretty Chinese too. This is the pavilion. You can see very next to Versailles in a palace. Very nice representation of the China scenery too, which were very famous in the 18th century. Okay. Some trompe-l'œil representation too. This one I did too at the salon demonstration. And a few panels of grisaille. Of course, the traditional marbles.
You need to speak a bit more. Il faut que tu parles beaucoup plus proche.
Oh, oui, yeah. So I hope you hear me.
Le micro est là. En fait, c'est ça.
So here once again, you can see the windows of the school. So it's very bright, very large. And oh, you know You know that panel? Kind of self-portrait. I painted, it was exhibited to Chicago in 2008. And I can now introduce you this few sceneries, these few Chinese sceneries, which are the topic of my demonstration. So let's see them. So let me introduce a few words about the history. During the 18th century, the East India companies brought from China large quantities of tea, skill, spice, porcelain, and exquisite work of art in Europe. China was seen as an exotic, mythical country, and these painted sceneries are the embodiment of this Oriental fantasy. Of course, this was an idealized representation of the life in these far-end lands, which was certainly out of reality. However, this was enough to be regarded as an exotic escape where people encountered paradise-like depiction of China's life. So at that time, everything about China was very fashionable. In Holland, many potters from the city of Delft started to copy the Chinese porcelain. The Delft blue pottery was immensely popular and was collected by rich families throughout the world. This is the reason why most of the painted Chinese sceneries were painted in this blue shade. So please now, and let me tell you about the emblematic location where you can see a China scenery. The most wonderful China scenery I've seen were in a castle which is called Champs-sur-Marne, which is east of Paris. Another famous place is Château d'Arouet, Arouet Palace, which is east of France. But I can say that the most beautiful, the most exquisite sceneries I've ever seen regarding China scenery were in Sweden, in Drottningholm, yes, Palace, which is next to Stockholm. And here you can see very exquisite paintings, Chinese sceneries. Also the most famous painters in that field were François Boucher, bien sûr, of course. Let me write it on the board. So the most famous painters, I could say, emblematic painters. So François Boucher, which is the famous one. You have Watteau, of course. And another painter, which is calling not Jean Sablé, but Jean Pillement. So this was very, very famous emblematic painters. So now, let me tell you about the technique. From my personal experience, I had the great opportunity, the great chance to restore that kind of painting in a small palace, very, very close to the school, very next to the school. And maybe Margaret, maybe you could share to the screen the pictures I sent to you. I don't know if you can do that, because you can share with us this painting I had the opportunity to restore a few years ago. I don't know if you can do that. Let me know if it's possible. I sent you four pictures.
Yes, you sent us some pieces. I'm not sure we can do this at the same time. I do have one of your, the chinoiserie piece you sent us up on the wall next to the screen. But see, we're seeing if we can do that now while you're
Okay.
talking.
No problem. Okay. So from my personal experience, I have, of course, the great opportunity to restore and to understand the principle and the process of that work. So I took for sample this small scenery I painted to Cathy's Salon in Seattle. And I will explain to you just a small part of this panel, the process of all this bird on this panel. So let's see now on the easel. I divided the stage of the work by four stages. So the first one, let me find a pencil. So the first one is what I used to what you can consider the blocking, the first stage. So the first application, I will take some raw umber, Rossina raw umber, sorry, both color, and a dash of violet oxide. In the bucket, I will mix matte medium with water at about 50%. So then I will apply this color, which is mixing both, I could say, a little bit more raw umber than raw sienna. It's very transparent, it's like a glaze. It's mixing with so then I will apply this color to the whole surface. So the application is very light and also pretty vibrant. So you don't have to really mix well the colors. Even if it's a little bit cloudy, it's much better. So then it's still fresh. I will apply at the bottom of the panel a darker tone made from umber, raw sienna, and a dash of violet oxide. So usually this kind of sceneries were painted on a pretty dark background, and it was like the scenery is holded by a floating ground like this. So you see the colors mixed together, and I will apply a few darkest accents. So always the same color, violet oxide, and raw umber, and a dash of raw sienna. But it's mostly a warm color. So I put a little bit more of violet oxide. So let's see, it's very precious, very important to keep the brush strokes because this will be very helpful to paint later the grass and in fact to all the scenery. So here we have some plants. So let's see how it's very how the brush strokes are very loose and not so blended. Okay, so this is the first stage. So of course, guys, the idea is not to give a painting lesson as you are very expert, but just to show you the principles that lead me when I paint this kind of scenery. So here we are for the first stage of the work. Of course, you have to draw the scenery. So we are here now at that stage. Look, here and here, it's pretty the same. So when this application is dry, which is done here, I will mark, which is the first step is what we call the block in. So it's made from raw sienna plus raw umber plus violet oxide. So keep in mind, it's pretty transparent, it's really vibrant, and also really cloudy. So here we are. So when it's dry, so it's dry here now. The second step will be to paint the background with a very, very transparent, very transparent veil. And in France, we used to use the Italian word velature. Velature is veil in English. So this veil is made from my mother color, which is made from Prussian blue and raw umber. So here is my mother color. I mix it. So I mix it with Prussian blue and raw umber. So it's about 2/3 of Prussian blue and 1/3 of raw umber. So it's an average. You can add some more or less of the color. If you add more raw umber, it will be a little bit greenish. So this is the mother color. So I keep this color preciously, and I mix that color with white. So here are the color. So this is, as I told you, is very, very fluid as a veil. So it's Prussian, umber, and white. And I make sure it's very transparent because I want this chromatic link come through that application. So let's take that. So make sure it's very, very transparent. So if it's not transparent enough, you can use a natural sea sponge. And which is interesting, so I try to reserve the darkest, the deepest shadow of the scenery. So look here. This is going to be darkest. So I don't apply this veil, this velature. I don't apply this here. I try to preserve the darkest tone as much as I can.
On te demande de confirmer que c'est 2/3 de bleu de Prusse et 1/3 de raw umber, c'est ça?
Oui.
Okay.
So let's see. You see, it's very transparent. It's also very vibrant. So if your velature is too opaque, it will not work. So let's see the second step. So here we are now. You see, this is the same stage of the work. So now the idea is to paint the shadow. Now is the shadow, and not shadow. This is the darkest. So usually I begin my work by the half tone, but for this kind of work, which is pretty busy, I find much more easier to paint the darkest tone at first. So for this stage of the work, I use my mother color. So this is very important. So that color, I will use it. For that, I will use a square brush, which is a nylon bristle. So I still have in the bucket, the matte medium. So it's also pretty fluid. So the square brush is very useful to paint the feathers, because when you twist the brush in your fingers, you can see the feather shapes, very natural. So when I do this kind of work, of course, I always keep in mind that the guys who painted these sceneries were artisans. They had a very huge surfaces to paint. So they have a method, very visual, very efficient. So you can see how the brush strokes are very loose. The work is not so curated. It's important to make it pretty fast. And I can do at that stage of the work, and can already represent the darkest feathers. It's very pretty opaque accent. So I preserved where the light will be painted. And then it dries pretty fast. I can already add some few accents. So now for the little, I need a pointed knife brush here for this. So now just a few accents here for the grass. So the darkest tones are here at the base, at the connection between the ground and the grass. So see how free is the brush. So I used to work until the brush is empty, so I can have very vibrant colors. You see, sometimes when it's just reloaded, the colors, of course, is a little bit darker. But when it's empty, the tones are lighter, more transparent. So we add some few more details then with the pointed brush. Few teeny flowers. So let's get a few details more thinner with the pointed brush now. Accent too. So I make it a little bit more clear. But always expecting very loose brush strokes, which are really the character of this kind of painting. You can also accent here too. So at the end of the work, at the fourth stage, it's always possible to add some accent, as I used to call adjustments, because sometimes when it turns dry, of course, it's change a little bit. So just make sure the base here is really dark, so it will hold the whole composition. So this is both a shadow and grass, just under the bird. So now, the last step of this stage of the work is to use the color, but with a very, very dry brush. So for that, you can use a rag and just remove the colors from the bristles. And very gently, you can just here, you see, just add a kind of very, very light shadow here. And try to preserve as much as you can the place where will be painted the light. Okay, so here is the principle of that stage. Of course, that can be darker, that can be a little bit lighter. It's up to you. Sometimes some sceneries are very, very light. Some others are darker. But of course, you know, the same room, on same panelings, you have to care to really match all the panels. Okay, so this is the darkest shadow for that second stage. So let's mark here. So this is my mother color, which made from 2/3 of Prussian blue and 1/3 of raw umber. So very important, very loose brush strokes, very vibrant applications, and very, very dark places, and very, very transparent. The whole range of values. This is very important. Okay, so this is for the second stage. So here we are. You see, the same stage, exactly the same. So now I will paint the third stage, the half-tone. Half-tones. Whatever. So this is really, really easy because for this work, for this stage of the work, I will use the velature I use for the first stage. So I take the same color, nothing different, but as it is a second application, of course, it's more opaque. You see, if I apply a second layer of this color, which was exactly the same as this one, of course, when it will dry, it will be darker because it's more opaque. 2 is more opaque than 1. So I just have to reuse that veil to paint the half-tones. I can just show you with a dryer. So you can see how much it's much more darker than this. And even if it's exactly the same mix, the same fluidity as this one, because as it's applied twice, of course it's darker. So let me now paint this third stage. So I take my colors. So now, as much as I will progress, I will use a smaller brush because the work's going more accurate. So the half-tone overlap a little bit the darkest shadow. So take this sample here. You see here the shadow. This is the same, exactly the same here and here. So this is the shadow. So the half-tone will overlap both transparent place of the work and the darkest one. So it's just at the boundary of the darkest tone and the brightest one. So the darkest tone, when it turns dry, the darkest tone, sorry, will come through this this color because it's fluid. It's very fluid. And of course, it will be different. The color will have a different reaction because here it's applied on a dark tone, and here the color is applied on a bright tone. So we have three different values: one here, one here, one here, and one here. So this is really a way to paint very visually efficient and also very fast. So of course, I take care of the light source. Here, the light source comes from the right. So I can once again use the flat brush. The flat brush is very, very good because it really looks like the natural feathers. So once again, you see, I try to preserve where the light will be applied. You know, I don't paint here, I don't paint here, because this light will be brighter on a light background. And also, you have to really make sure this application is fluid, very, very fluid. So it's better to apply it twice than one only application, which would be too opaque. So let's see now for the grass. So you see, I just overlap the previous application. Of course, not the whole surface, but it's at the boundary, once again, of the lightest tone and the darkest one. You see, the darkest one, the lightest one, so it's just at the connection of the two shades. So of course, there's a white on this color, so it's a little bit opaque, and it makes the works lighter, cleaner, because you can fix some little mistakes, but it's not really mistakes, because it's very important to have at the first stage of the work a very free brush strokes. So these sceneries were very, very fashionable at that time, at the 18th century. Everybody wanted this kind of scenery. I mean, mostly rich family. Because people had a kind of idealized representation of what was the life in China, which was, of course, not the reality. But however, it was very, very, very famous. So here too. So I was really, really impressed how this scenery, how fast we were painted this scenery. when I had this great opportunity to do some restoration. And the sceneries I had to restore it were painted by Jean Pim. Let's see how it works. Even on the little legs, very thin. Pink, pink. With tiny flowers. I don't know if they are from China, maybe from Bretagne. Okay, so here we are for the half tone. So the half tone are the lightest shadow. Okay, so you see as it turns dry, so you see the application, it's pretty bright, but when it turns, when it becomes drier, it's a little bit more darker, because of course the background comes through, but which is really interesting. So you can have very, very vibrant values. And this is what we are looking for. Okay, so this is for the third stage. Let me print it. So halftones made from the mother color, which is the mother color. So it's white plus. So this is the mother color. So this is a Prussian blue plus raw umber. So I can call this. Oh, sorry. Mother color. So here we are, the last stage. So you see, this is the same level, the same stage. So now it's a little bit more sophisticated and more accurate, as I have to paint some few details. So the fourth is light plus light plus reflected light et plus adjustments. So the color is always made from the mother color. For the light, I will use, oh, I forgot something. Also, plus background. The background is very important. De batterie?
Non, non, de visio.
D'accord. Ça coupe naturellement?
Je sais pas. Ils viennent de m'envoyer un message.
D'accord. So let's go fast. Let's go fast. So where is the light? Petite boîte avec couleur très claire.
Qui était préparé à droite.
Mhm.
Absolument.
Sorry. So the light, you have the color here. It's made from the mother color plus white. But at that time, you see the light is not so diluted as was the halftone. So it's lighter. You see the halftone is here. The light are here. But this is the same ingredients: white, Prussian blue, rumber. So I take this color. And I'm going to paint regarding the light source, the light. Of course, to represent the feathers, the strokes must be very, very short, very short. And the application, the color is opaque. Just add a little bit matte medium, just to make it a little bit fluider, but still opaque. Of course, small strokes in the grass too. So of course, as more as I progress in the work, the application is not so important. The strokes are very, very few. And you see how it makes the work more curated, cleaner. And you can also represent some part of the work. So here few flowers. Broken branches. Pretty messy. The bright tail. So you see, as it turns dry, it's a little bit darker, so you can add some few accents with the same color. And this application is very, very, very thick. And you see, it's a different value. And of course, it's very, very few. Okay, so let's paint now the over here. Okay. 2 strokes with the cat tongue bristle brush here. So each time, of course, I try to preserve the background. I don't cover the whole surface. So now I just will paint the background. So the background is made from white. Just take white on my palette. And a dash of rose sienna and red oxide. Rose sienna, red oxide. So keep cool with the red oxide because it's really, really strong color. And I don't want the color to turn pinky, which is already done. So it's a little bit red. So I paint the whole surface. And which is interesting, so I try to preserve the chromatic ink, the color, the background color, next to the pattern, to the design. And we also use this Italian word to explain this. We call this a sfumato. Sfumato is like fumes. So you see, I don't go too far, too close to the grass, to the bird. So which is really interesting, it's kind of very quiet shadow, and it makes the design, the bird comes in front of us with a new dimension. So for this work, I don't use a small brush, because if I use a small brush, I will paint too next to too close to the bird or to the grass, which is not good. Too close. So I don't know if we have time enough to. I don't want the connection. Est-ce que Monsieur Zoom me coupe la... Non?
Pas pour l'instant, non. Je vais demander.
Moi, j'ai besoin de 10 minutes.
Trois minutes.
Ça va couper?
Ah, je sais pas, il dit 3 minutes.
So since we have only 3 minutes to finish the demonstration, the lecture, so guys, the main things is the principles. I don't want to give a painting lesson. Of course, you are so talented and you don't need a painting lesson. But just to show you the main principles. Who drove me, who leads me when I paint this. So first the same here, so everywhere. So for last step of the work can be some few adjustments with once again the mother color. If needed, you can clean here and there some very dark spots in your composition. If it's not dark enough, just make sure the deepest shadows are represented. Make it clearer. The shadow here, cast shadow of the bird on the floor. So adjustments are really up to you, depending if you want something very curated or something loose. And also the reflected light. For reflected light, I just use Prussian blue, very few, with white. And sometimes in the darkest shadows, I just, with a dry brush technique, I just apply this few reflection in the shadow. So the shadow are not so opaque now. Okay, so that kind of blue delf, once again, very famous.
I'm sorry to
I
interrupt.
hope you enjoy. It was fun. So look, here is the same work. I don't need to finish. But you understand, of course.
So I kind of did this to Pascal yesterday too. I am very sorry to interrupt you. And I just want to thank you so much for painting and being at my salon. I really, really appreciate it. And we just love watching you paint. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, Jean-Luc.
Bah,